live on Twitch. And
Okay,
Russell
cool.
gets his camera sorted. There we go.
Yeah, that's better. Cool.
All right.
Okay.
Welcome everybody to episode 35, 6. Wait a second. Do we have an episode number? Is it?
Let's start again.
36, I think.
Is it 35
Well,
or
I've got
36?
I've got 36 on showing on my screen.
Wow. Okay. We'll make it
Let's start
36.
Let's start again, man.
You sure?
I think we should.
All right. Well, I'll make a blooper reel. Don't you worry.
This is a blooper reel. Yeah, it's 36.
It is 36. Lucky.
Matt knows better than we do. This is like
I just keep talking, and they just keep putting numbers in front of what we do. All right. Welcome, everybody, to episode 36 of the You Can't Comp This NBA Trading Card Podcast. I'm your co-host, Adam Amy, joined, as always, by Russell Gibson. But in addition to this, Russell, we have another guest.
we do have a very special guest tonight.
Tell us more.
So Matthew Hall, welcome to the show, mate. You are the onboarding partner of Provenance Grading Company, and we would love to speak to you, mate, and hear your story about where you've come from and what your goals are. So please tell us a little bit about yourself.
That sounded really nice, Russell, but can I interdict by just saying, why the hell did you get into grading?
Yes. It's a great question, isn't it, boys? Thank you. Thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah, welcome.
No, thank you. And hopefully we can get through a bit of stuff tonight and get you guys some answers to some questions.
Yeah, definitely. So, take us back to the start. Like, what's your earliest hobby, like, memory? This is my favorite question to ask people.
Yeah. So before we even think about like grading companies or anything, let's go back to you and the hobby.
Yeah, back in time. All right. So, earliest hobby memory would be. There's a couple that stand out. Right. So the first one would be the Scanlon's rugby league. Cards in the green packet with the.
So you don't live in Victoria. That's the first thing we've established. Yeah.
No, so, as soon as you said Scanlon's, I'm like, the AFL cards.
Yeah.
No. So the Scanlon's rugby league cards, boys, in the green packets, and pinching 20-cent pieces from my mate's older brother's ashtray. To head down to the servo and grab a few packets, boys. That would be my earliest memory, I think, on the trading card front.
Wow.
So that was good.
I mean,
good
what's
times.
worse, pinching it or pinching it from an ashtray? I'm really not too sure, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know. They're both pretty bad, aren't they?
Did those cards come with Chewy in the chewing gum?
They did, mate. Yeah. So you got the little bit. You had the pink sticker Chewy with the. I don't know what they used to put around it. Something bit of not flour, but the white powdery stuff.
It was
a bit of white powder, and I'm sure. I'm sure it works magic.
Not quite that. Not quite that white powder, but yeah. No. So that would definitely be the earliest memory.
That's a good one.
And then No. Yeah, well, that's it, boys. That's where it all began. Like, I mean, we must have been, I don't know, 9 or 10, I think. I don't know. It was a long time ago.
Yeah. And then sort of between that point and now, is there anything else that's sort of significant happened to you before you started this next project?
There's probably been a couple of phases. Like, I mean, obviously in the early 90s, like the huge NBA phase that we had in Australia, all over the world, really. So that was a massive one. Stopping at the shops at the age of 15, grabbing the old Fleer Ultra Series 2.
Yeah, beautiful.
Home. So I spent a lot of time doing that as well. And then, realistically, probably next steps would have been, getting back into collecting probably 4 or 5 years ago, I suppose. And then obviously that massive ramp up, in the COVID phase as well. So they're probably the 3 stages, boys.
That sounds very familiar to me too, to be honest.
Well, look, I'm at a point now where I'd like to because people call the early 90s the junk wax era as far as the hobby's concerned.
Yes.
I'd like to look at that a little bit more nostalgically and just say it's the Jordan era of card collecting. Because Jordan's the reason everybody got into NBA cards. Jordan took over the world, news-wise. It was...
No, absolutely.
He was a famous guy for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's really when you look at it, that was well, he was the driver, right? Like, I mean, he was
Yeah.
everywhere. He was just, he was absolutely massive. You know, like we used to play basketball, and like, I mean, that was what sort of predicated and drove the whole thing, really.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan. So yeah,
Yeah.
100% agree.
And anything else you want to talk about before we go into Provenance?
No, boys, no. Happy to sort of
Yeah,
dive in
let's
and
go.
sort of answer as many questions as I can
Yeah.
from you boys and
So
bring some clarity.
for me, the obvious question is, why did you call the company Provenance? Like, that was the big one for me, because by definition, Provenance is that you're the first person to have done something. So for me, I don't know if you're being like, is this like a little bit of your sense of humor, or are you seeing yourselves as like true pioneers in this sort of space?
Yeah. So look, there's a number of different parties, I suppose, involved
Yeah.
in this project, and one of the one of the parties being an IT entity. Sort of the basically there's different stages mapped out for this particular project, and so that provenance piece really is developing it to a point where and I'm not the IT person here, but I'll give you the thing when you're working with IT guys and IT teams. It's always interesting, right?
They
So
use different parts of their brain. I
they
understand what you're getting to with this. Yeah.
yeah, they definitely do, right?
Yeah.
Like
They're smart dudes.
Yep.
I'm the relationship builder, and they're the IT developers. So, so look, effectively, it's sort of mapped out in stages, right? So
Yep.
we've got sort of these 12-month blocks. So the provenance piece basically is, it's probably these stages 2 and 3 where they're developing a platform which is taking. An inordinate amount of time at the moment, but so they have sort of this chain really of what they want to call provenance effectively, and so where it was sort of all birthed out of was we've all seen the fake card scandals and these other things that have gone on, right? So it's really where they're looking at okay, how can we potentially overcome this, and what can we do? And so this provenance piece, really, this sort of chain of provenance, if you will, that's where the name was birthed out of effectively,
Okay.
and that's stages probably 2 and 3 down the track at the moment, but that's where the name came from.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So can we discuss that a little bit more, or is this something that's still, you need to keep it a little bit confidential? Or
Yeah, look, it's still definitely from a development side, and look, it may be well worth us doing another podcast and really having that the IT team on.
Yeah.
So they're going to be the guys to talk to in terms of sort of elaborating on what that looks like and where it goes, I think.
Yeah.
And look, some of it still is a little bit under wraps, right? So
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like obviously from that transparency point of view, more than happy to arrange something.
Yeah. No, let's leave it for a minute. So, but let's keep on sort of down that thread. So what are your goals for the company? What would you like to achieve in this space?
Yeah, so look, it's definitely having provenance cards in every collection. So that's absolutely an aim of the company and where we want to be with it.
Yeah.
Now, one of the other big things is when we sort of sat down and had a look at this, we looked at sort of the Australian landscape, and we've got all sorts of things happening. We've got the retail stores, we've got the break groups, we've got a number of different entities and avenues across the industry within Australia. And one of the big things we wanted to try and create was we wanted to figure out how can we support the industry to firstly help it grow and provide additional sources of revenue realistically to help support the retail stores and the break groups, and help that grow basically across Australia. So we'd originally come up with some thoughts around providing different pricing levels for those groups, and really putting them at a massive competitive advantage to the company itself. So, you know, you as a break group member, or you go into the retail store, effectively by doing that, you would receive significant discounts on the pricing for it. So basically what happened is we got to a point where, rather than sort of overcomplicate things, we sat down as a team and went, okay, well, look, let's just remove ourselves completely out of the equation. And so where we've got to now, and what will be happening, is as a consumer, you won't be able to submit a card for grading direct to us with the company.
Okay.
And so you will only be able to submit your card for grading through a partner.
Okay.
So so we just took ourselves completely out of the equation. We thought, what's the best way to do this, and to support the partners, and to try and strengthen that. And so we just removed ourselves from the equation altogether. So effectively, as a consumer, you cannot submit a card for grading direct to our business, direct to our company.
Are there different tiers, I guess, of partner that you would engage?
Okay. Yeah, so look, at the moment, there is sort of one level. So at the moment, we've got 4 partners. So the beta testing for the card submission platform, the boys have been doing some more this week with one of the retail stores.
Yep.
And so that's still sort of ongoing. We're hoping we're getting close to that being finished. But at the moment, currently, it's just sort of one level. So it's everyone sort of on the same playing field, so to speak.
That makes sense.
And then it's, you know, obviously we'd love sort of everyone in the industry to be, So we had one sort of breaking group where we had decided not to sort of move forward with them, just for a couple of different reasons. But you know, just obviously being mindful that we want to make sure that sort of the partners that are coming on board are, you know, like we're all sort of working together and working towards the same goals. And from a brand point of view, they're the right people to be involved with. So
you didn't go and like approach anyone off the scammers pages and things like that. I knew I'd get a laugh out of Russell for that one.
Thought we'd try and give them a bit of a
mix. Give them a special tier to themselves.
Yes, no, absolutely. Yeah.
So what do you think the risks of doing that are? Because I think it's a sensible idea, but I can also see how that can also cause some problems for people submitting. What's your thoughts on that? Yeah,
it's definitely, and that is absolutely a consideration. So around sort of, and we're looking at a couple of different things there. So from an insurance point of view, tracking point of view, there are a number of moving parts, and so one of the directors in particular, he's been tasked with a lot of that work.
Sure.
That risk minimization. Because that was one of the things that sort of came up really, really strongly with when we did a lot of that focus group work, was that, you know, just this hesitation for people to be sort of posting away their cards, you know, what's happening, where is it at, what's going on. So it's really when we sort of map out where we want to try and be in terms of the ability for a customer client to submit. We definitely want to make sure we're having those physical locations.
Yep.
And then in terms of those break groups, that's really important in terms of who we're partnering with there, which I'm sure you guys can appreciate. So,
of course.
Look, it's definitely a process, and it's not sort of going to be everyone. It's got to be absolutely the right fit. And then obviously overlaying some of those other elements, such as the insurances and things like that. So,
So is your plan then that people would go into breaks, they hit a really nice card, the break is affiliated with your grading company, and then they'll send it directly to you to get graded, and then you'd return it to the person who hit the card out of the break? Is that what your sort of plan is in that space?
Yeah. So basically at the moment, that's almost 100% correct. So one of the groups, actually, that has been what's been happening at the moment.
Yeah, sure.
So he's actually retaining cards currently for his existing guys. But yeah, effectively, that's
Cool.
Okay. So yeah, it's almost like when you're watching a break and you hit a big card and and the breaker says, "Would you like that in a one touch for an extra $5?" Instead, for an extra however much, would you like this immediately sent off for grading?
Yep, correct.
Like, it's an interesting. Yeah, I think it's an interesting. When we were talking with Slabbed last week,
Yep.
They were talking about something different, but selling the card. Like once it came back from grading, it instantly you can sell it on their website. Like I like all these outside of the box kind of thought processes.
Yeah.
Like a lot of them are to be seen how good they are and how much the community wants them. But
Yes.
But I think this is going back to the future of the hobby is people do need to think outside the box and sort of see different ways of doing things. There's not just the same.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And
Yep.
look, a big driver was really that, you know, how do we try and create that synergy with the hobby within Australia and offering it's almost, look, you'd almost call it like a cooperative model, really.
Yep.
It's almost like that co-op type model, I suppose.
Yep. Well, the
adding
problem
that
you won't get
support for
partners.
that.
You wouldn't get partners on board if you had your own avenue. Like if I, as an individual, if I could just submit my cards to you, why would I go through a store?
Yeah.
And there are reasons, like
Yes.
I don't want to do the bulk submission. I want them to write it out, whatever. But
Yep.
but to actually
absolutely.
sort of say, well, no, this is the only way you can do it. You can't cut out the middleman, so to speak.
Yes.
You have to go to an authorized partner in order to do that. And that it be that a breaker, be that a store.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're still interacting within the hobby in one of those, I suppose, social circles.
Yeah, correct. And that was, you know, obviously those added benefits we did because the company's based in the Newcastle Hunter area, and so we did a card day about 6 weeks ago, roughly, and did some promotional work there. So that was quite a good turnout. Look, it was in the hundreds. There must have been close to 250, 300 people at that day. And then off the back of that, through some of that promotional work that we'd done, so one of the stores there's a card store in Newcastle, which is one of the partners. Now, subsequently, the foot traffic there for them off the back of that promotional work of the customers being able to go into the store has been great. So he's been like, wow, this is fantastic. You know, like we've got 30, 40 people who actually had never even been to the store now have gone in. So, you know, one of the while the benefit of the partnership is obviously there for him, it's great because it's that increased foot traffic, obviously, into the store and you know, that recognition and getting the word out.
Yeah, that's really interesting, man. So, and part of your planning to tell us about your graders and the training processes they've been through, and you know what their experience is. Because for me, I think this is a really key point of where a grading company will get a good reputation, or you know might not get a great reputation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So basically, we've got 2 senior graders, and 1 grader. I'll call them a junior grader, but
Sure.
So the 2 senior graders. So they are both. Their background is watchmaking. So one of them is a watchmaker slash diamond grader, and then the other, he's been a watchmaker for about a decade. So we've got one of the seniors is full time, the other is part time. So their backgrounds with the watchmaking. Now, in terms of the actual matrix development, there was some input into that from the US. So what we're looking at doing once the website is up and running is actually giving a bit of an outline as to how the cards are graded. So as part of that process, you'll obviously receive a report with that. It'll show you how the card's been graded. It'll have the details around that. and then there'll be some broad details. So effectively what's happened is with that input, the IT guys have developed the algorithm so that as the graders go through and nominate the gradings for the different variants across the 22 gradings pieces of the card, that goes into the algorithm, which then gives the final grade. And so we're going to give a little bit of an outline there once everything's up and running on the site as to how those come about.
Yeah. So are they planning to do like an internship at BGS or PSA or something like this? Like, how are they going to get their reps up to look at cards? And for example, so another, like something for me that is a big one is, and you spoke about this earlier, is picking up fakes.
Yeah.
So, and I'm saying this in the kindest possible way. How are they going to translate watchmaking into picking up fakes of precious metal gems?
Yeah. It's an absolute massive. Look, it's a massive part of it, right?
Yeah.
And so what's happening at the moment is with the guys out of the US. So what's happened effectively, the guys have been put through that training manual that's been developed out of the US. The guys have undertaken and gone through that training, and so they've been working with the guys. Look, on the fakes, that's a massive issue. And because the problem is these days with some of these fakes, they're getting pretty good, right? So they're not just pretty good, they're go ahead.
In addition to like being pretty good, they just keep resubmitting them to companies until they get graded.
Until they get graded.
Yeah.
Yep.
Correct.
And I suppose like what I'm sort of leading to here is like, how are you going to protect yourselves? And, and you spoke about the community and also the community too from that, because, again, that to me is
Actually, before you answer that, is the partner program a good way to stop like the fakes coming through? Because they've got to be submitted in store. That means somebody that's got a fake card has to go into a store or send it to a breaker, which, in order to get it to you.
Yeah, and so, look,
that's an extra wall of defense, I guess. It is what just sprung to mind with that. But
look, it is part of it. Okay, so you've got the submission to the partners, so you do have that element. In terms of obviously transaction payment of the card as well. This provenance piece, as it develops over time, is effectively going to track. That's probably not the right terminology, but basically,
no, that's okay.
It'll get to a point where who's submitted the card, that person's particular details, and then that carries down through the chain. So, if someone has submitted, now the problem is the person who's submitted the card, you can't necessarily sort of make that carte blanche. Oh, you've submitted a fake card and you knew it was a fake, and so. You've got that element as well. They may have a card which, maybe they didn't, maybe they bought it off eBay, maybe they bought it from wherever they have
100%.
or known that it's a fake, dependent on that quality.
And that's why grading's so important, so that you know what you're buying, because I'll be honest with you, like buying those cards raw, I just wouldn't do it.
Well, that's it. Isn't that the whole point, right? You're putting your faith in there's a document or it's gone through a process to certify that this card is genuine. No,
absolutely. And look, again, that's these discussions with the guys out of the US and some of that training itself relating to identification of fakes. Probably where we're probably starting with this realistically is level of cards graded, right? So we understand, right? We're not PSA, right, at this point in time. And, PSA is PSA. In terms of where we're thinking, the cards that are coming in initially, we're not expecting $5,000 cards. We're probably not expecting $1,000 cards in the beginning, to be perfectly honest. Where we see ourselves probably in the first 12 to 18 months, realistically, is a company that people are going to test. They're going to try it out. And those levels are going to sit probably between that $50 and $250, in all honesty.
Yep.
Not that obviously where we want to go with it. Yes, absolutely. It's going to elevate and move up from there. But
Yeah, sure.
realistically, we understand that people are going to look at this and go, okay, well, all right, let's give these cards a bit of a run.
Yep.
On that lower scale, to sort of get some of those. That's realistically, we understand.
I think that's a very healthy answer, honestly. Yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing. You're gonna be put through, put through the ringer, so to speak, and then look. I suppose the goal is just not show up on one of those card porn threads where they're calling you out saying you've got no idea how to grade. That's did you pass the test, so to speak?
Yes.
Well,
absolutely.
I can't believe I'm actually like doing this, but to defend card porn, they will typically contact you first, and in the event that you don't respond, and this is why BGS has had so much heat, because they literally are ghosting card porn and they're not responding. So then the next thing is just to go public. So that last question actually lead me into the next question like really nicely. So where do you sort of see yourself in the the chain of command? So there's the big dogs, PSA, BGS, and SGC. I think we can sort of put them into that conversation. And then in Australia too, we've got a company that's been around for a very long time with CGA, and then probably the other one that's making a bit of a splash at the moment is Platinum. So
yes,
like where do you sort of see yourself on that sort of ladder of hierarchy, I suppose?
Yeah. Look, so effectively, in terms of sort of the strategy moving forward, so new player. So we're anticipating, launch will be at some point over the next 1 to 2 months, effectively, for clients to be able to then submit for grading.
Yeah. Okay.
From that point, it'll be another 2 months of basically putting things through the process. So those 4 partners at the moment will not be expanded on within the first 2 to 3 months of the ability to submit cards, because we want to make sure that those systems obviously are functioning as they should.
Yeah, sure.
And those processes and workflows are going through, and we're sort of picking up maybe any kinks along the way that need to be fixed or amended.
Yeah.
Look, from that point on, there will be a fairly aggressive push, and that'll be East Coast to begin with, but effectively it'll be spreading out from there. So it is going to be a fairly aggressive push to look to onboard partners at that time, and that's been laid out over a period of 6 months of where we want to be, the number of partners we want to onboard, and then sort of working through. Are these partners, are they the partners that we want to partner with, and are we sort of moving in the same direction, and, providing customers with a product and a service, basically, that lines up with where we want to be as a brand.
Are they? I was going to say, are they genuinely representing your brand in the way you'd like it represented? Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. So, just making sure that they're the right people, because there's, and I'm sure that you guys appreciate, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the industry which is a little bit unsavory, and we just want to make sure that we're strengthening the hobby and the industry in Australia to begin with,
for sure,
and partnering with the right people to do that.
Yeah,
that's a good. Well, it makes complete sense to sort of build those foundations. Now, I suppose the question is it under wraps who the partners are, or is it? Can we do we? So we know there's a store in Newcastle.
Yes, yeah, correct. So basically, we've got a partner in Queensland.
Yep.
We've got 2 in New South Wales. One's in Newcastle.
Yep.
And then there'll be one in Tasmania, which I'm sure you boys.
They might have Victorian affiliates.
Correct.
Yeah,
correct. So those guys to begin with.
Yeah.
And look, effectively, what's going to happen there with those partners? So there's going to be, and again, happy to come back on whenever you boys would like. But once that sort of gets going, there's going to be no secrets there, because we're going to be promoting those guys quite heavily.
For sure.
In terms of those partners, and sort of adding value there where we can.
Yep.
So Luke Hoyle is who hooked us up with the interview tonight. So thanks to
Correct.
Luke. And
Yep.
Luke also does submissions for Forensic Grading, which is a US company.
Yes, he
And
does.
Forensic's game plan was to get a bit of the market share of SGC. So that was what their plan was.
Yes.
Have you put a company on your sort of hit list to try and say, look, we want to get, this bit of the market share and this, like what space of the market are you trying to get yourself into? Because I'm really
Great
asking this question again because you saw,
Yes.
I'm not saying you tiptoed around answering it just a second ago, but you kind of didn't really answer the question. So I'm really curious about this because
Revisiting. Yeah.
well,
Look,
the reason I say though, because I think this is a really important question, right? Because
Yes.
just this week alone, PSA is doing $35 subs. So
Yes.
where you fit into the marketplace or where you see yourself fitting into it, like to me, this is really important because
Yep.
PSA gets aggressive, and then people go,
if I can
"Whoa,
send my cards to PSA for $35, like, where does this leave a new company in the current climate? Like, I think I'm sure this has been on your mind. So
Absolutely. Yeah. No, look, where we see ourselves effectively. So look, Australia is the beginning, right? So it's how do we become the predominant player within Australia?
Yeah.
So that's the goal here.
That's your goal.
So
Yeah, cool.
that's the absolute goal. Look, and there's an 18 to 24 month window on that we've set the target there. And a lot of that's going to be through that aggressive expansion of partners and that cooperative type model.
Yep.
And how do we add that value there? So there's a really sort of particular concrete strategy around that. So that's absolutely sort of first stop for us. And then in terms of that pricing point, around sort of PSA and what's happening. So I think, and the way that we have sort of looked at this has been out to sort of the end of 2025 with the planning for what's happening. So obviously with Fanatics, we know sort of what's happening there with those guys. They're going to be coming on board and taking over those licenses.
Yep.
We actually think that there's going to be, and we understand that there's been a bit of a lull already in the card industry and card prices and what's going on sort of across the board. We actually think that that's probably going to get a bit worse moving forward. We think that prices are going to come off further, and a lot of that is going to be driven, I think, predominantly through what's happening with the interest rates and official cash rates and the central banks and other things. And so effectively what we sort of foresee is that's going to become a little bit more. There's going to be a little bit it's going to get softer, basically, we think, over the next sort of 6 to 12 months. And so really looking to utilise that sort of 12 to 18-month period to build out the correct foundations, solidify those partnerships by offering, obviously how can we promote those partners and look to give them additional streams of revenue for their business, but also partner with a company that is moving with them in the right direction to help support them. Now, where we sort of think things are going to end up, look, we do think that, and forgive me, mate, there's a couple of us with finance backgrounds
It's
here,
fine.
so this is probably where these where this conversation's coming from. But basically, we think that, look, the central banks are going to sort of reverse course on what's happening probably about 12 to 18 months from now, and those things that drove the card market towards the beginning of COVID, we're going to start to see a little renaissance there with some of those drivers.
Yeah.
And then we do think that as that sort of picks up and that lead into 2025, and you sort of listen to the guys at Fanatics and where they sort of want to take things in terms of that exposure towards the collecting. So they've got quite concrete views on, hey, we want to sort of get this,
Yeah, I get. Okay, I understand where this is going. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Up to those really large, large eyeballs, 30x. They want 10 to 30x basically in terms.
So you're laying the foundation essentially for 5 years' time when Fanatics is like ramping things up.
Yeah, correct. So this is a longer term sort of journey, I suppose. We're not sort of we're going to grab the whole market in 6 months. It's definitely that sort of
with the market targeting. You've said Australia, so are we looking at sports cards? Are we looking at NBA? Are we looking at AFL? Are we looking at Pokemon cards? Are we?
Yeah.
Like what's going to be the focus with especially, I suppose it depends on the partners you get,
Yep.
but is there a focus to Australian sport? Like AFL cards are a local market only thing, right?
Correct.
So I suppose there's opportunity there, but there's limited opportunity.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's all sports. So,
Yeah.
look, predominantly, look, the big ones appear to be sort of the NBA and the. I won't call it soccer. I'll call it football.
Yeah.
So they appear to be
European
probably
football.
Europe. We'll call it European football.
Yeah.
So they appear to be the two biggies on the sport front.
Yeah.
What we're sort of seeing. So it is going to cover the sports, and then it is going to cover the Pokemon TCG space as well.
Yeah.
And so one of the guys involved, just in that Pokemon TCG space, one of sort of the challenges we identified early on is sort of around that identification piece, which can get a bit tricky. And so, we've had to sort of bring someone in for that specific purpose.
I know. Magic the Gathering and Pokemon specifically, there are some fakes that go around that are very, very near indistinguishable. So trading card games are terrible.
It's been a massive, that's been a massive thing. So we've had to bring someone in who, very, very knowledgeable in that space, because I've got no idea about it. I'm a sports card man, so I'm not a TCG person. But he's pretty amazing.
With the team of graders that you do have, what kind of capacity do you think they've got to output? Like, it's a smallish team.
Yeah.
Now, we know that PSA are outputting like 1 million cards a month.
Yes.
I'm assuming that 3 people are 4. Like, a small team doesn't do that.
Yeah, no. So, look, at the moment, in terms of capacity, the way that we've sort of built it out, look, there is a lot of, which everyone's aware of. There's a lot of pent-up demand at the moment with grading. So, getting an idea just in terms of sort of that pent-up demand, we do understand that there is going to be, quite a lot at the beginning, just from sort of the partners. So we've got the pent-up demand. However, in terms of sort of that build-out over the next 9 months, because we only use the first 3 to sort of get rid of any issues, we sort of see 9 months out the ability to build to about 750 a week. Over the team, and that's obviously staged over sort of that 9 month period, but effectively sort of that 7 to 750 across the 3 guys, that would be maxed out at that point, basically.
Yeah. So you're speaking before about building up value in terms of the way that people can submit cards, and it's funny you say that, because again, just going back to what Luke was saying before, so Forensic have just offered a deal now where I think it's $30, but if they don't get the cards back to you in that 10-day grading period, they're actually offering like a full refund. So that's their way of providing more value.
Yes.
Lightning fast turnaround or your money back kind of thing.
Yeah. SGC is, they're not offering like a money back guarantee or anything like that, but essentially that's like one of their big sort of selling points, is that you give the cards to them, then in 2 or 3 weeks time, like the cards are back in your hands.
That's a huge selling point, I guess.
And that's a selling point. But I think the thing for me that I think about when I consider this concept is that, how do you make your card label collectible? And what I mean by that is, for example, PSA. I think at the end of the day, the reason why people submit to PSA instead of BGS, because 2 years ago, that was really the conversation, wasn't it? The decision was, do I send it into BGS and take their sort of, shimmery gold label, or do I take the red and white PSA? But then it really came down to, ultimately, you're looking at comps and you're looking at sold prices. And then it was, say, 20% more for PSA, and then it became 50%. And in some instances now, you're almost up, 300 or 200% if you're going to PSA instead of BGS. So I think for me, again, when I'm considering grading companies, and that's the same for when I'm considering SGC too, to be perfectly frank with you, I think they offer a good service, and I think the price is is very reasonable, and it sounds very competitive to and similar to what you're offering. But
Yes.
after that point, so I get my cards back, and then I want to flip them on in a couple of years because I want to buy a nice big boy or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
What can you do in that space to make your card labels more collectible, or have you guys put thought into that or consideration?
Yeah.
I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, look, and it's one of those things, right? Like, and it's it's definitely the whole Rome wasn't built in a day piece, and we absolutely understand that it's a long journey, right? So that sort of gaining of that market share, really the first phase of that is brand awareness. So getting the brand out there. Right. And so sort of this staged approach of brand awareness, getting the brand out there with the partners, people are sort of seeing more of the product in the marketplace, looking at the quality, understanding what it's sort of providing. And so that actual process there, that's absolutely a time process. And we understand that that's going to take time across sort of that, that longer term sort of 3 to 5 year play, 3 to 5 year plan. On the pricing front, that's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out over the next 12 to 18 months, especially if we sort of start heading into a bit of a downturn. Fingers crossed we don't end up with a recession. How that plays out with, firstly, obviously consumer spending. And then what that's going to look like for people grading their cards, how that sort of plays into that piece.
Yeah.
And so, look, we think that it is absolutely going to be something that's going to have to be monitored over that time to understand, where is the market, whether it's this week, next week, the week after, what's happening in the market.
Yeah.
Are we sort of starting to see those changes in consumer behaviour and the collectors and the hobbyists and what's actually happening there? Look, I think that, obviously the hobbyist and the collector and the, those markets, there's going to be different people grading for different reasons. And I think what we're going to see is maybe some of those elements potentially falling away. There's going to be other elements where, hey, look, I'm still going to get my card graded sort of regardless. It's my hobby. I'm happy to sort of spend that money. But that's going to be a bit of a moving beast, I think, over the next sort of 12 months, which will sort of, that's going to need to be monitored and watch pretty closely.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of everyone sort of across the board, all the card companies.
Yeah, I was going to say that's going to be everybody in the hobby. Yep. Yeah, for sure.
No, absolutely,
for sure.
Ad, did you have any questions left over, mate?
I'm intrigued with the team of graders.
Yes.
You said there was a company in the US. So is there actually like a course or a training? Like, is there a course to do to become a grader?
No, there's not. Look, I probably need to be.
We don't want to get you in trouble.
Yeah, we don't want to get you in trouble. It was just more of a. Is there a course?
Look, there's not a course. There has been input from a couple of external consultants into that process.
Okay. Yep.
So that's probably about as much as I can say.
That's fine.
Without breaching any
without
NDAs and things. Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
As I said, we didn't want to. We don't have you. We're not having you on to expose anything. Definitely. Curiosity will get the better of me. So I'll ask the question.
No.
I'm very curious about this, and just for the fact that I think the space that you enter into, it's literally the David versus Goliath battle. So I think, kudos to you guys for taking on a challenge like this. And, I got nothing but, good vibes for you guys and, wish you all the best, honestly, because I just think doing a project like this is like I'm sure you've invested a lot of time and money into it, and I'm sure you've had a few sleepless nights already. So and also, Matt, you've been very generous with your time. Did you want to? So you've got the open floor. Would you like to talk to us about anything that's on your mind, or that you would like to sort of get off your chest a little bit?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Like, I mean, look, timing wise, look, being sort of the relationship manager, I would love things to happen a lot quicker than they're happening. But I understand. Obviously, the guys we want to make sure that it's done correctly and properly.
Yeah.
So sort of that investment in laying that foundation. If you don't sort of do the foundation right, then it ends up falling over. So sort of taking that time to make sure that the foundation's laid correctly.
Yeah.
That's a huge one. And so, ultimately would love to be sort of taking submissions in the next sort of 4 to 8 weeks. And then obviously as soon as that happens, we can maybe have another chat, boys.
Yeah, great. Just hit us up when you're ready to go again, and that'd be lovely.
Speaking with some of the IT side of things, or understanding a bit more of the process, there's definitely more we can explore once obviously you're able to discuss things once you've got that launch happening. And
absolutely. And you guys will obviously have access to the website and the social stuff as well, which we can sort of shoot through, and you can take a bit of a squeeze at that and check it all out as well. Great.
So when we discussed offline how much time you had, you said till 9 o'clock. So we've still got 13 minutes.
Yeah. Yep.
You're welcome to go, but Adam and I are going to talk a little bit of hoops. Would you like to join us?
Yeah, sure, mate. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, great. I just put something into the chat room just there. It's a Twitter feed.
Yes.
It is a post about the triple Logoman. Not the LeBron
one. I like this one. I actually really like this one.
This is the Steph Curry, Clay, and Draymond. I was
going to say, yeah.
So interestingly, this came back as a PSA 10. The LeBron one
I did
was just authenticated.
We don't even know what it would have been. Probably was a 6. Let's be real.
It had quite a ding in the corner and a scratch on the back too. So 6, 7 would be the.
Do you know what the funny thing was? If the LeBron came back as a 6, they call it a jersey numbered bloody grade.
Okay. That's what LA fans would do, Adam. Yes,
that's what the Miami people would do. Enough of this Laker hate.
So absolutely beautiful card, and
it looks great.
I'm stoked about this card because I think this is what a flawless card should be. It should be PSA 10. I think for that LeBron card to.
Can I weigh in on that? It's it's the best version of that card because it's a 1 of 1.
Oh yeah.
It's the best possible one you'll ever get. So it is a 10, right?
But for 10, I mean that's beautiful.
Yeah,
I really like
a beautiful card. I do like that one.
I think it's a modern homage to just the the team of our sort of generation. Like we can't go past these guys anymore.
Anyone talks about a big 3, that is that
is a real big 3, not these big 3s that get thrown around willy nilly.
No, that's great.
Alrighty, great. Have you been watching much of the preseason and the summer leagues, mate?
I haven't myself.
Yeah, no, a little tiny bit, but not much.
Yeah. So I think the big one for me is Chet Holgrem. So he is just all skill and all potential, and his body is just, it's like an empty casket, really. I think he's really going to get banged around when he, plays with the big boys. But I found this, which I thought was absolutely fascinating. So he's shooting 50, 41, 100. So that means 50% from the field, 41% from 3, and 100% from the free throw line, which is numbers that a 19-year-old kid really shouldn't be doing, but that's what he's doing. So how do you guys feel about him moving into next year? And also, let's talk about the trading card space. Is he going to be the one that everyone wants to collect next year?
It'll be interesting. I'll start with
Go Ed.
I'll start with interesting. No, that's as far as I get. I don't know. Yeah. I can never. I don't like hype mentality when it comes to seeing early signs. But there's definitely a lot to get excited about.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, right? Like you're trying to, who's the next big thing, right? Like you're really trying to get in a little bit early to, potentially, if you're not PCing that particular player from the get go, then you're trying to find that little edge, get in a little bit early to try and maybe get a little bit of upside, So it's I do find it very interesting, like the collectors / investors who we've got a couple of guys there just that deep into the numbers and the way that they invest. It's pretty interesting to watch. But trying to find that little edge. Maybe
do they use analytics? Do they to pick who they put into their PC and?
Yeah, you would almost call them a if you were going to overlay it against a share trader, they'd be you've got like your value trader might be your buy and hold guy, right? So he's buying a particular player, he's just going to hold him for 2, 3, 4 years, whereas the guys who really sort of get into that nitty gritty, they're the really technical traders. They're sort of buying and selling within 4 or 6 weeks or 8 weeks, or they're watching those teams, players, who's in the playoffs, who's not in the playoffs, what's happening
yeah, sure.
everywhere, like that real sort of technical analysis, and then sort of charting, looking at all the off-season sales, and then overlaying all of this data across. It's pretty. I don't have the patience for that personally. But some of those the boys are they get right into it, so it's interesting.
So you're a buy and hold type guy then, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Yeah. No, 100%. What about you? What about you boys? Who are you where are you at?
I don't mind the odd pump and dump stock that
Just get into NFTs. That's
it. That's where it's at, isn't it? No. Don't even start me on that rubbish.
Yeah.
No, it's I don't mind dabbling here and there with some prospects and going.
Yep.
I like the look of this kid. Get a little bit, but yeah, like I don't like jumping on the hype train, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No. Absolutely.
I haven't watched enough of the Summer League to really come to a conclusion.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot to take out of Summer League, and there's also a lot to. It's just dressing.
Yes.
Wait until the actual league starts.
Yes.
It means a lot, but it means nothing. I would
Correct.
agree with that 100%. But I think if someone's shooting 50, 40, 100, that, you know what I mean? Like that's
nuts.
That's irregardless of, whether it's hype or not. Like I'm really tantalized by this guy now. And I think watching Paolo play a little bit, so he's already been shut down from the Summer League. He played, a handful of games, and the Magic said, like, that's it. We're just, risking you for injury now. I see why he went number one. He's big, he's skilled, like his body's mature.
Yeah.
But then you see, and I see why they didn't pick Chet, because Chet is the opposite. He's big and he's skilled, but his body is just, it's really going to cause him problems.
He's
like
going to snap in half at some point.
Yeah.
Literally.
And then, the Rockets pick, Jabari falling to 3. Like, they said that before the draft. They've got no pressure here. Whoever falls them at 3, they're going to take. And he looks really good. He's going to be fun for them. But look, honestly, the one I've been stressing over the most as a closet Kings fan is Jaden Ivey, because he just looked like Ja Morant athletic, and the stuff he was doing was just crazy. I can't watch him. I can't wait to see him with Cade next year. But Keegan Murray's look good, so that's going to be like my silver lining out of this little conversation. So
for sure.
The big thing that's been on my mind this week is Luka Doncic. So last week we spoke about him.
Yep.
Did we talk about him on the show, Ad, or am I having deja vu?
No, I think we talked about Luka dropping.
We did. So
bit.
He was down quite a bit he's actually recovered. So he's only down 14% in the last 3 months. He was down 30%.
It was crazy.
Week.
It was it didn't make sense. It's like I don't know, something to do with the Brunson leaving, that he didn't have anyone around him or something. Like people just thought Dallas was cooked. I don't know why there was just this
it doesn't make a lot of sense
on Luka. It could be, but sometimes it's not always a sports related dip.
Yeah.
Like there is economic, like interest rates are going up around the world. It's global markets are trying to stop inflation.
Yeah.
And people are really starting to feel the pinch. So what are people doing? Offloading cards, and Luka's an easy asset to move.
Yep.
So my whole thing on this though is, if you look at the price of Prism Hobby from 1819, what are you paying for that now? What, $3,500 plus? So you can get a red, white, and blue PSA 10 Luka rookie for $775 USD. I think
that's money in the bank.
Honestly, I just think at the moment, particularly what's sealed is selling for. To me, this is just, the pink ice is selling for 1,100. There was a few others that were less than 1,000 or that sort of 1,000 mark, which is, if you had said that a few months ago.
Yeah, gee whiz, you can't really be buying sealed at that when you've got those other opportunities on offer.
Doesn't make sense, does it? Yeah, so
no, it doesn't make sense at all. Yeah, there's a little bit of arbitrage happening there, I think. Like, I mean, guaranteed 10. Luka, versus,
and that's the thing. It's not like you're sending it off to hope it gets a 10. This is a 10.
Well, that's it.
It's a 10 in your hand.
Like, I mean, that's
there's no risk.
Yeah, no, that's a no-brainer.
So yeah, I think that's really the big thing for me. And we spoke about a little bit about this on the show. When is a good time to buy? This is sort of, we're cycling into that time, and I think we might have missed the Luka boat though, because it seems to be trending up a little bit. So even though other players might be trending down, I think Luka is so far down. Like this Ruby wave, that's down 45%.
Jesus,
that last sold for 940 USD. So
you guys using Card Ladder for that data?
We do.
What are you using there? Yep. Yeah. Wow.
It's such a great tool for just getting your head around,
great. Yeah,
which direction cards are going, up or down, and
No, it is. It's very good. Very good. I can recommend it. That's for sure.
So then the last thing to talk about is last week we spoke about Zion and his contract. It was the same as Darius Garland's. And I found this from Bobby Marks. The structure of the $193 million Zion Williamson extension is comparable to the 2017 contract that Joel Embiid signed in Philadelphia. League sources tell ESPN the contract is fully guaranteed and has a prior injury clause along with criteria for games played. So, yes, he gets his money, but he gets more money if he hits a games criteria, and also.
So he just needs to take the court. That's good for everyone. We want to see Zion.
Yeah.
We definitely want to see Zion.
Absolutely. Yeah. He's good for the game. Good for this. Yeah. Good for
And just to tie off before we go, just to tease for next week, we have Raymond Lee coming on from Asian Cards. So
there's been some controversy in the week, hasn't there?
If you were following that controversy, he actually bought up an Australian card group that caused about 1,300 of the members to leave. There was a little bit of dissatisfaction there. So he's very generously agreed to come on and discuss with us, his viewpoints and what he's trying to achieve. So I'm actually very excited about that. I can't wait to talk to this man, and I think he's going to have some very exciting things to say. So on that note, Matthew, thank you so much for coming on tonight, mate.
Quite all right, gents.
We're honoured to have you on.
Great. No,
actually, I've got one very quick question.
Go, man, go.
We had something in the group posted by one of our listeners.
Yes.
And the wife wanted to buy a caravan with their tax return. He wants to buy cards. Where do you sit in this? Caravan or cards?
You be the vote decider here. Yep.
Oh, gee. Well, look, there's a couple of moving parts, right? Like, I mean,
I can tell you the poll is very one-sided.
Depends if he wants to stay married or not.
Agreed. That said, there've been some pros and cons listed. If you buy the caravan, you can go and visit every card store in Australia.
That's true.
Don't think that'll be the plan if the wife gets the caravan, though.
Yes. No.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, and have a lovely week. Thanks, guys. Take it easy.